Hey, how's it going, guys? So, finally, first tutorial, a loose tutorial. This is something I wanted to do since the inception of this channel. Is once we started having the tools, I wanted to talk to all these different mod authors and have them walk us through how they create the mods and how we can create them or create other things by just osmosis, by learning what they do and the processes they go through, and then we can incorporate it into our mods. So how I set this up is the first part is just going to be me talking to Dezzy about his process, poking around a little bit at Xedit, asking about how he got into modding. The next one is a little more in depth of walking through the different parts we're going to be using, and I play devil's advocate and ask him everything I don't understand. So it may be a little slow for some of you, but for those who don't touch Xedit like me, it hopefully will be really informative for you. And just to reiterate it, we have, after that part, from start to finish, he creates a weapon mod. The bare bones of it, so you can get the idea. He's not going to recreate the whole mod for you that he already has out, and I'll leave the links down below. But you should be able to get a streamlined watch that part and get the main idea of how to do this in Xedit. Then we show you in-game what his mod looks like. And if you like this process, please comment down below. This is a new addition to my video set, and I'm hoping to do a lot more of it because I think this information is going to help other modders and maybe get other people interested in modding. And now, before you run off to those chapters, for whatever reason, his OBS and Xedit didn't record anytime he did a right-click and selection or a drop-down menu. It didn't show. Luckily, it's only about 2 repetitive things that he does, but I wanted you to see it from mine because I recorded as well on my Discord. I wanted to show you that video, so when you got to that part, you weren't going, what the hell am I missing? Anyway, so here's the part. It says,
I would have to like copy as an override. And I'll just name make it right here. Just name this test. Okay. So like here we go. So what I did right here is I actually just created an override of this record. Mm-hmm. An override is basically the same form ID, but you're allowed to change it. So you can't modify the base ESM stuff. Like if I tried to, I couldn't.
So this is like a mask. It will cover what's existing and pull from this instead if you had to load it up. Okay.
Yes. So like you see how I can't right click and edit on this one. If I go here, right click, edit, I can change that right here, or I can just double click and like, let's say I wanted to, like, neat thing about Xedit, auto completes.
Oh, that's really
so
cool.
So let's say instead of building an isocentered magnet, I wanted to make this thing build an adaptive frame. I would just select that, and let me expand these so you can read it.
So pretty important thing to know. You go into that, right click, copy override, and then that's essentially how you're making your mod, is you're overriding what is in vanilla game. And then of course the drop down menu is just good to know what he was looking for. It's a type feature. You type it in and you can see all the selections that are relevant to it instead of having to memorize the reference ID and all that. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Find the chapter that works for you. Rewatch it if you can't remember it, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I rarely do it that way, but like and subscribe. It helps me out. Appreciate you guys. Let's go. You know, I was thinking about this too because a lot of the mods that are on there, it really shows that Xedit and kind of the modding where it's at right now is a great R&D because they have the bounty hunting missions. You go out and go get a bounty. And, you know, it's just, it goes to the menu. So you click and he instantly goes to your hold. And then you go click and click on a file that's in your inventory that sells the said prisoner. So it's very rudimentary, but it's like all that R&D of like creating the skeletons is happening right now for modding. And so I think like right now is being undervalued as like how many mods are coming out that are getting the systems that we want, that are going to be hooked up to better UI, better quest and dialogue once we can get into the CK to hook all this up. But we're having all the skeletons created now, space stations, landing your ship, autopilot, Like this is pretty impressive right now for what people have to work with.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to like an autopilot mod or something, like something that'll like bring a little bit more realism in terms of like travel. Like, let's say, because like, if I remember correctly, the way that they originally planned it was you would have to plot out points on a map, and like, you know, the nav table. So like, you'd go to the nav table, plot out your travel and everything, and be like, you jump to this system, this system, this system, and this system to get to where you're going. The way it's currently implemented, like, you do still have those hops, but it's seamless. But what happens is if you have a helium station on one of those hops, it increases your fuel. At least, if I remember correctly, it says that in the loading screen. Like having an autopilot that would actually like tie into something like that too. The hop system, I mean, like you'd basically be able to plot a course and just like automatically travel there, and you could just get up and walk around. That would be perfect, especially if it's like a loading screen simulator. I don't know, like back then the loading screens they used to have were like 3D, like in Skyrim and Fallout. And honestly, like I don't know how they did it. I think it was just literally just a scene.
For them, I mean, there would be like pictures and shit, kind of.
And for Starfield, yeah, it's pictures, which
yeah, but even
they ported from Fallout 4. Not Fallout 4, Fallout 76.
Right. In Fallout 4, you know, you'd have the 3D model that you play with.
And like, I don't know how they made those loading screens back then. But honestly, I wonder what if they could do is like take the ship cell that you're in, because when you're in a ship, you're in a cell. And
you should probably explain a cell since we're going through all this. What is a cell?
A cell is just like a collection of objects, basically a space in the world space where there's just a collection of objects or items and stuff like that. It's how Bethesda really handles their world rendering. Any place you're at is a cell. So like the ship's interior is a cell, the bay is a cell, the world space like New Atlantis is a cell.
And how do you usually get between cells?
So like the way they handle it is the game engine itself loads, I think it's the Ugrids to load or something like that. It loads up multiple cells around you. So when you're traveling, it's automatically loading and unloading cells. But the way they're handling ships and stuff now is new. It's not new completely, like having multiple cells loaded in at the same time. You know, that's what they've been doing. But having a cell that moves is new for me, from what I've seen. So like, I'm wondering if they're going to be able to like eventually make it to where there's like loading screen where what's happening is they're displaying a visual on the outside of the cell, like through the windows, you could see it. And what they're doing is like unloading areas around you, unloading the areas next to you. So you're going from Jemison and you're jumping to like Earth or something like that. Like essentially keep the cell that you're loaded in, but unload the cells around you or something. I don't know if that's see.
And so that multiple cells is how we can look outside our spaceship. And if we were outside of our spaceship, we can look in. And there is no difference because we're still a cell inside a cell that is already loaded, correct?
I think there might be some LOD changes from like outside the ship that aren't noticeable when you're in the first person view. I think they changed the LODs since it's not rendering the outside.
Right.
But it's still like it's the cell loaded within a cell.
But the walls inside the ship are a 3D model. Yeah. It's not a shell that if you looked outside, you would just see that it's like a thin piece of paper or something. I mean, visually, I know it's not an actual thin piece of paper, but it's built on a 2D screen. Yeah. Modelers, man, I still wish I knew anything about that.
Yeah, I'm still learning a little bit. Like I'm learning by myself.
Yeah, how did you get into this? Because you started here basically, right? But I assume you've worked with computers before.
So I've been messing with computers and games for a long time. I think since I was like 10, I was messing with computers. But like for modding itself, I had Morrowind. This was back whenever I had a computer at my grandmother's house, and I'd go there on the weekend and everything, and I would play Morrowind. Like, and it came with I forget what it was called back then. It wasn't the creation kit, if I remember correctly. It was called something else.
I just like the sentence "at my grandma's house with her computer playing Morrowind." The time, dude. I mean, like changing.
Like I miss those days, but like that's when I got my start modding. Like I would make super simple mods for Morrowind. I was young and just messing with this. Like I wasn't, doing any crazy things. I was like, putting items in the world or making new spells or stuff like that, like simple things, or at least simple to me.
Right.
I don't know if they're simple to everyone else, but like I would be messing around with, I forget what the heck it was called back then, but it's the creation kit now. But I was messing with that back whenever the view was only like 2D, you didn't have a 3D space. You could view it from the top, but like if I remember correctly, you couldn't move it around. I could be wrong. I don't remember completely.
Right. It's kind of more of like a map builder. Opposed to a full 3D rendering space.
I think there was some 3D views. I just never learned it. It's been years since I messed with that particular version, but I got my start modding there. Morrowind was my first Bethesda game, and
Got it. So
like,
you've been on the Bethesda modding circuit for a bit. Have you produced anything on Skyrim or Fallout
no,
4? No? Okay.
like
So this
honestly,
is
most of the mods I made were like for myself.
And so you just dived right in. So what made you jump in on this game? Because I mean, there's of course Skyrim is still being modded. Fallout 4 is still being modded, but
It's
is sci-fi your thing?
oh, I love sci-fi. I
Okay.
love sci-fi. Like, but when it comes down to it, like I figured not necessarily like, not like the whole new game, new thing. It was more like I like this game and I could see a lot of potential with it.
Hmm.
I want to see what I can do with it. Because I have a lot of time right now. Like I'm between jobs because economy's crap.
Oh yeah.
I'm still going through that crap and it's like, interviewing with companies. It's like I have a lot of spare time right now. So like I'm spending a lot of my time like working on mods to keep myself busy and keep myself sharp. Like, and a lot of the stuff that I'm doing is like literally just because I'm bored. And it's like I want to modify the game to make it to how I like it.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, if I'm gonna make these mods, I might as well put them out. So
Absolutely. And I mean, it's something that's there. It's something that's in your back pocket. And I know Red Hot, he even got a job through modding. His company found out that, he did mods. And they're like, yeah, show us the mod. He's like, here it is.
yeah,
He's
I
like,
think I saw that video you're talking about.
yeah, and it's completely showing that you go out of your way, create something without anybody else pushing you on it, and then make something that other people enjoy. You create a freaking product, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it shows a lot of determination, fun, and drive.
Yeah, and I mean, like, part of my workflow for certain mods, because the tool is not completely like it doesn't have definitions for everything, but like
Hmm.
I use Sprigget for converting the ESMs to like a text format. I could store that in Git, which showing that kind of information, like working on GitHub Actions to build releases and stuff like that, working in Git is good for my kind of career, like in tech,
Hmm.
because like Git, YAML, and stuff like that is stuff like we use constantly in our work. It's something we do, and like CI/CD stuff. So I'm porting a little bit of my knowledge from my work to modding and using the tools that Nagog put out basically for helping with that workflow and everything. It doesn't work for everything right now because they're still, like building definitions for Starfield, but like it works for Fallout 4 and Skyrim and stuff like that, which I might go back to Fallout 4 and Skyrim and make some mods there and like see what I can do there.
Hmm.
But it works well with Xedit because it's like Xedit, like whenever you're viewing it, it looks just like a table. It's like Excel on steroids. Like,
Yeah, and that's part of the reason it terrifies me. So I'm looking forward to seeing it here because every time I've opened it, is I just do one thing. I change the ESM into an ESP,
yeah,
so I can mod it, and then when it goes back into the group patch, it goes back to an ESM. So that's
yeah,
my extent, and that's enough for me to be terrified of it because all I do is estimating sheets these days for a metalworking company, and I'm like, I can't do Excel anymore. Luckily, I've been helping my old job before the pandemic, which was cooking, and so
hmm
I spent it yesterday too, and I'll a day a week cooking and kind of vent because that's more my line of work or being in construction. Yeah, doing the bidding aspect of it,
yeah.
it's an adjustment, but the pandemic has done many adjustments for people.
Yeah, like I've worked in tech for as long as I can remember. Like I was like 17 and I got my start. I've worked in fast food and stuff in retail before as well, like, in between jobs.
Hmm.
Most of my experience is with computers. Like I've been messing with computers since I was about 10. When I was 17, like, parents were like, you could never get a job doing that, Because
Well,
it's
they
like,
can call that wrong, huh?
well, yeah, it's like at the time they weren't, they kind of were. It's like I grew up lower middle class. At the time, they kind of weren't expecting your stuff to take off like it did, and they're like, focus on getting a real job, quote unquote. And I was like, fuck that. I'm just gonna mess with computers and games and like get better at this because I'm pretty sure in the future it's gonna be a lot more relevant. And
Yeah.
sure enough, it was.
Yeah, I was raised by my mom, and we shared like a bunk bed, Section 8 housing, and all that crap. So I feel yeah.
Yeah,
Luckily, she was trying to work, so she had no time to even question what kind of career path I was going down. She'd just be happy if fucking made it.
yeah.
But yeah, I get it because a lot of it comes down to is like, well, you just needed to make money, and that's how I got in
hmm
construction, and then I got into cooking. It's just trades, doing stuff with my hands, but I've
Yeah.
always built computers. I've always been into the aspects of modding and whatnot. Code is just always something that's eluded me, like language in general, because it is another
Same,
language.
actually.
Yeah.
I suck at programming, like,
Oh, you're
hands
much further
down,
than
the
me,
worst.
from what I've seen. You have
Except
a
it's not
handle on
programming.
Papyrus.
I can read it. I can't
Yeah.
write it.
Oh,
Like,
if you can read Japanese, you're already doing better than most, right?
okay, you got a point. Like, I mean, reverse engineering, like, is like a big skill set with my work because it's like part of what I have to do. What I do now, or like what I did before I got laid off, was penetration testing and ethical hacking and stuff like that. A lot of my skill set is like reverse engineering and like figuring out how things work and stuff like that. That it's like whenever it's like it comes to modding, it's like trying to understand how other people's mods work just comes natural. So I'm taking the skills that I have from work and everything and like porting it to that. You know, I can read C, C++, Java, C Sharp, Python, Golang. I could read all these different languages. You know, what's one more? It's understanding programming is like the basics of programming is just one simple link, and you know each language, like each programming language, has their own take on it, but they all follow the same rules. And
0
you
and
know, once you
1.
understand those,
On or off.
at the lowest level, but
Yeah.
like once you understand like one language, you can understand other languages just with a few different changes here and there. Like in Papyrus, there's like no for loops for some godforsaken reason. I really hope they actually implemented that. Like,
Help
in
me
Papyrus
with
2.0.
for loops here.
Basically, like do this thing for X amount of times, or while this thing is, well, that's like a while loop, but a for loop is like for the numbers between 1 and 10, let's say, do this one thing. So what it'll do is it'll iterate each time doing the same thing.
I see. And it does that for unlimited loop, or does it do it for a certain specified amount
For a certain
of time?
amount.
Okay.
For a certain amount. Like you could probably make it a unlimited loop with a for loop. I just don't think that would be really efficient. For something like that, you would do like a while loop, which is like while true, do this thing, and it just continuously does it.
Well, it'd eat up your memory, wouldn't it, if it's always continually in the backlog going?
So it depends on the programming language. Like some of them have garbage management and stuff like that. So it's like in memory management. So it's like it'll handle memory processes. And like with Papyrus, I'm pretty sure they have memory management built into it because we don't have to manage our own memory like in C and C++. Like that would be freaking horrible if we had to manage memory in Papyrus. So like the actual game engine itself handles the garbage collection and like memory management and stuff like that. And the Papyrus just basically, you know, you could do all the different stuff and not have to worry about the low level stuff.
Right, and that's how they have the ability to have Papyrus fragments, right? It's basically it's just banking on the what the engine is capable of doing. You don't have to put in the
Yeah.
whole lines of code. You can just say, "Hey, do this one thing," and it infers basically what the backend has to do.
Yeah. And like the way Papyrus works is like they have a interpreter. When you compile it down to a PEX file, the game just interprets that binary file and like executes the stuff inside of it. So like the game itself is an interpreter for that, and it'll execute the code that's written in it. So like that's how like the fragments and like other scripts work and stuff like that. So pretty cool stuff, but like it's like way beyond my understanding when you get to the lower levels of it.
Well, and it's intimidating, you know, and I think that's kind of a reason why I wanted to see if you can walk us through one of the Xedit things, is because at least in the CK, even for all its faults, it is somewhat user friendly
Yes.
in its presentation, which I can probably see a lot of arguments for the other way. But in general, if I can get on it and mess around with it, it's pretty user friendly.
Yeah. Xedit's honestly, like it looks intimidating to a lot of people, but it's honestly really simple. I'd say even more simple than the CK in some ways because you're not having to click through like a whole bunch of different windows. It's just one window.
Well, I hear the loading is a lot. Well, I know the loading's better because I have to upload it, and it boots basically everything in the game files within 5-10 seconds.
Yeah.
Where the CK, I have to like knock on it a couple times to see if it's still working.
Yeah. The CK has its own faults, but honestly, like it's still good too.
Oh,
It's definitely user friendly, and like it has its faults, but it is user friendly to say the least. Because like Bethesda puts in time to make sure that modders can use it easily.
Yeah,
you know, like they'll go through and fix stuff.
Yeah, there's only a couple actions that you do inside the CK that, you know, you worry about it crashing, but you can do a lot fairly smoothly and repetitively without having any issue, as long as you don't push it past its speed limit, basically. Like you don't try to jam a bunch of functions into it at once. You should be all right.
Honestly, like speaking of crashes, like You know how Starfield is like the least buggy, crashy Bethesda game that's been released so far. I'm hoping the CK got the same treatment.
I really am. I'm hoping that for the how they changed up the files and everything, the problems that Alminster had with it,
Yeah.
that there is some overarching reason that shows in the CK too. I don't know, but it seems really weird to do the things they've done without any reason. Like I don't think they just forgot how to program a game.
I think there was a few design decisions that were made, and like, it's like I don't work at Bethesda. I've worked, with multiple game companies and everything as a consultant, and like, I've gotten a unique look at how some of the stuff works there. But
Mhm.
I haven't worked for game companies specifically. I've worked as a consultant, but it's like I still have a deeper look than most people have. And at the same point, it's like they've probably made some design decisions in the process of making this, and it's like, they're going to have to go back and fix these things. It's like they most likely know about these issues at this point
Mhm.
because Elminster and that the Xedit team has complained about it,
Right.
and it's become
Their
this whole
filing
big
system.
issue. Yeah, it's like this whole big issue in like the news now and everything. Like people are talking about it, so Bethesda surely knows about it. And my guess is, with the changes that they made, they're going to have to go back and change a little bit more engine in before mods release. So like that might delay mod support a little bit. Like they said early 2024, but they had to know about this issue. Like, but it's still probably going to delay mod support for a little bit. Probably going to get a late Q1
Well, that
of
makes me
2024.
wonder, because they were doing the CK and they've got to have seen problems with,
Yeah,
having an ESM only or um, just their organization in general. So that yeah, there's definitely some questions of some of their choices they made with the back end and also in the game itself. It
hmm
seems like they went one direction and then did a 180 at some point in development.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to CK2 to see what's going on there. But
same.
with that, let's what mods have you come out with? Some case people haven't.
I think the two biggest ones right now are the drug manufacturing extended and ship weapons use ammo. Like those are probably the two that most people are going to be using, and like they're the biggest in scope that I've made so far. But they're also like two that people like so far.
And are you gonna
Um,
take them further than where they're at right now? Do you have
yeah.
plans with them?
So with the drug manufacturing extended mod, I'm working on adding more recipes, so you can make all the different drugs in the game, including drugs that there's no recipes for yet.
Mhm.
So I'm having to like make recipes for objects that didn't have like a recipe in general. And like so like drug manufacturing extended, I made a recipe for Bass oil, like because that's the big limiting factor in Aurora production.
Mhm.
So I was like, it's the year, what year is it? I don't remember, but it's the future. Like you would think they'd have the process to synthesize a oil of a fish. Like,
Right. We also synthesize now
yeah,
drugs, even salt, table salt's a
like,
synthesized
yeah.
version.
Like, I mean, mass spectrometry and other stuff like that. I'm like, we could understand the way something works, like in current times. In the future, we'd be way past that.
Mhm.
So I was like, I might as well make a recipe so you can actually synthesize Bass oil, and I did. And it's like now the actual process of making Aurora, like I modified the recipes a little bit. So it's like you start off with making Bass oil, then you make unprocessed Aurora, and then you use the unprocessed Aurora to make Aurora.
Mhm.
And there's also the recipe for AMP in there, but I'm adding other stuff like Adijac, Adachrome, Battlestem, all the different chemicals and everything in the game, and adding all recipes for those so you can make them and like all the precursors and stuff like that. That's planned for the future.
Oh, sorry. Is there anything in the engine itself that you've seen in the coding that has shown that Bethesda was doing this with any other drugs, ammunition, or anything like that? Has there been remnants of it, or is this
Not
all new code into it?
not that I've seen. I haven't noticed anything relating to that. And it's like, I had to make all the cells and pack-ins and stuff myself, and like the recipes were already there because you're using the chemical workstation, the pharmaceutical lab. Basically, you're using those recipes in the builders. So all it does is it just loads those recipes.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're doing is you're taking like an AV, assigning a resource, like the resource that's tied to an AV and a constructible object, and that constructible object is pointing to the recipe. So whenever the fabricators have those list of AVs, those AVs are tied to the resources, which are tied to the constructible objects. So that's how it loads all the different recipes that you can make. But that wasn't like in the base game. Like, I mean, for other stuff like general manufacturing stuff, it was already in there. But like stuff like ammo crafting and other recipes for chemicals weren't in there. Whether it's like they didn't actually plan it or they cut it, I don't know.
So you basically copied what they had for manufacturing already, but with your own recipe for the bash oil.
Yeah.
Got it. Can you show me, just a curiosity, can you show me the code for the processing? I don't know, what's a process they do? Any of the manufactured goods, the magnetic square or whatever the hell the name is for that thing.
Isocenter magnet. Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah,
So let's start with our resources. So sort by editor ID. So the way they name stuff is actually pretty intuitive. So here we go, isocentered magnet. So what I was saying, like how they have an AV tied to it, and then it produces constructible object. This AV right here is pointing to just simple actor value.
An actor value is for what we would call an item or a person.
It can be for anything. It's like the ships have actor values, the outpost beacon has actor values, the character has actor values, NPCs have them. This is stuff like health, stats, like so your carry weight, your health, a bunch of different things. Like there's a bunch of different actor values. And essentially these are just tied to this stuff. But in terms of manufacturing, it's used for, which I'll show you in a second, the containers. So if you see here, like you see how these containers, where it says cont, are pointing to this actor value. Yeah, and it's tied to all these containers. Here, let me sort by this. It's tied to all these containers here, and all these are the fabricators. So let me go back to the resource. So this resource also has a constructible object. This constructible object is a recipe. So basically, it tells you what you need to make it.
Okay, so the FVPA components is the component, and so we need one nickel and one cobalt.
Yep.
And that's showing the quantity of it.
Yep.
As well as what it is. Okay.
And then we go back to the resource itself. It basically links this actor value to this constructible object. And then what happens is, let me go back here. You look at this, there's a whole bunch of different references on here for this resource. Same with the research projects and stuff like that.
These references are pointing back to
different recipes and stuff like that use this resource.
Oh, I see. So you take that cobalt. Is that cobalt?
Yeah.
Okay. So you take the cobalt, and then these are all the things it's going to: the Nova Blast internals, Rattler internal. Okay, so it's just pointing you to where all these.
This is all the stuff that uses the isocentered magnets, which this will come into play in a second. So basically, like this resource is used in all these constructible objects. So basically, everything that's a recipe uses resources or miscellaneous item. The resources are the way to track it. So if I go back to this miss item, basically says this misc item is tied to this resource, right?
CVP components, one rest manufacturing tier 1, the magnet, right? Okay.
Yep. So let me open this back up. Oh, not that. There we go. So now, so we know how the actor value is tied to the resource, stuff like that. Now, if we look at where this actor value is and look at what's calling at these containers, right here are all named the same thing, simple fabricator, but the editor ID is something different. So comm relay, isotopic coolant, zero wire, tile grade, rheostat, reactive gauge, polytextile, et cetera, et cetera. All these things are the fabricators that you see in the build menu. there's more to that, but like these are basically just containers. And whenever I open up this container, it's literally just a container. But the key part is down here. Remember those actor values? So those actor values are right here in the properties. So these properties are the properties of the container. So it's carry away, the power it requires, whether it can be connected to power, whether it's a build container, if it can be powered.
And so for this container, if we take that carry weight and changed it to 10, we would essentially be changing that weight inside the game, right?
Yeah.
So that's a good point to make of how simple some of these things can be.
Yeah.
If you wanted to download Xedit and manipulate it, is that if you just wanted to change a specific weight that was driving you crazy, and instead of waiting for a mod to do it, you can go in here and go ahead and change that carry weight yourself. Fairly easy as long as you can get to this part of the navigation.
And it's pretty easy, like, to get around, like, let's say, you know, like how I just been doing is control clicking in the menu. So like if I see how it's not underlined, if I press control and hover over it, now it is.
And what does that mean? That's selecting it?
So if you hold control and then click it, it'll follow it. So it'll open up this item, like this record.
I see.
So yeah, all these properties, like you see how all of these have that resource name, right? They're all set to 0, except 1, which is the isocentered magnet. So whenever you open up this property, it's pointing to that actor value, right? And the value. So this value is saying enable this. So this actor value points to that resource, or it basically, the actor value is tied to the resource. So it's saying this is what it's producing. So it's using this actor values to tell the container what it's able to make. So in the like manufacturing process, like it is basically a container that has these actor values associated with it, and these actor values point to the resource. The resource points to constructible object. So
and that container is what's inside the actual bench that you're working at. So if you work bench,
these are the fabricators.
Okay, so
these are the fabricators.
So the fabricator goes to the container. I'm just wondering where the connection is between the two.
Oh, it's the same thing. Like the fabricators are literally just containers.
Okay,
like,
so they are essentially the same. Okay.
Yeah. So it's basically a glorified container that has some scripts that run. That's all it really does. So basically that container is like pointing to these actor values, and those actor values point to the resources, and the resources are pointing to constructible objects, which are the recipes. So that's how it just knows, let's say I want to make an isocentered magnet. That's how it knows how much resources it needs to make it, and it'll request those resources. So, for the chasm bass, I had to go through and I had to make a container for it, and then I had to make the actor value, the resource, and the constructible object, and basically linking all those together, and then setting the actor value to 1 on the container basically says build this thing. Then, like, to actually like get into placing it, there's some other stuff which is a little bit deeper, and this goes to like stuff like cells and pack-ins. We were talking about cells earlier. I can remember. This might freeze Xedit, but
it is an experimental bid on Xedit. Just so people do know that, this is the Wild West of modding right now for Starfield. I was saying before, it's like an R&D time using Xedit to kind of patch out the skeletons, and also just how Starfield was created, there is some inherent issues with stability. So yeah, just be aware of that if you do start modding your own game. You're going to run into a couple hiccups on the road.
Yeah, like searches take particularly long because the game is just so huge. Like, it is literally the biggest Bethesda game out there.
Yeah.
And like searching through all those records takes not super long. It can take a while. Like searching for specific strings can take a while. And searching through the cells is like basically whenever you open the cell, it's not. So I'm gonna have to go to the pack-in first, and I'll go from there. Pack-ins are relatively new. So basically these point to cells. So if I go down to...
And why would they point to cells? there's going to be explaining some layman terms here.
Yeah, so pack-ins are a new concept for Bethesda, how they built the world. Pack-ins basically point to cells, which point the cells basically build up things like greebles and like things you place down, like furniture and stuff like that. So the pack-ins are basically pointing to these cells and saying this thing is equal to this collection of objects. So I'll show you in a sec with once I find one that I'm looking for. Like you see how all this clutter and stuff is on there as pack-in, fruit quarters, Easter eggs. We go down to outpost. Here we go, outpost. So you see right here, isocentered magnet. So this pack-in is called, symbol fabricator, right?
Yes.
But the editor ID is outpost PI, so outpost pack-in builder A or 2. So A is tier 1, B is tier 2, C is tier 3. And then, the number corresponds to what it is. A02 is isocentered magnets. So, and then we go over here, the right of that once we have it selected. And if you look in here, there's a snap template, snap behavior, transforms, filters. But right here is the cell. So if we go to the cell, so it's pack-in outpost PI builder A02 isocentered magnet storage cell.
Mm-hmm.
So click here. Then you see it right here. If we open this up, this cell is made up of 4 objects. It's an empty cell, basically, for things. So remember that container that we were looking at?
Yeah.
So it's right here.
So that's underneath, that attached to this pack-in outpost builder, A01 incandescent magnet.
Yeah. So like inside the cell, there is a container, control console, and then this group pack-in dummy and this pivot dummy. So these dummies are just like empty objects. The pack-in dummy is for like pack stuff like that, and the pivot dummy, the group pack-in dummy is for pack-ins. The pivot dummy is basically centered in the center of the object, and that's what it pivots around. So when you rotate the thing, it's rotating around this item right.
Oh, I see. So an invisible person, NPCs there, and that's what they're using to circle around it, like you're the player character.
Essentially, it's just an invisible static object.
Got it.
Like, that's all it is. It's basically used for controlling where it turns. But the 2 big things right here are the container, which has its actor values and stuff like that. This is the thing that actually does, like if it's a harvester or a fabricator, this is the thing that does the thing. So if it's a harvester, it'll harvest stuff, harvest resources at a specific rate. If it's fabricator, it'll create things at a specific rate. And then this control console. So this control console is an activator. Basically, it's that panel that you can click on and change the recipes. So if you look, go ahead.
Sorry. So I'm still trying to understand. So the pack-in outpost builder, the storage is a storage cell. So that's so to take away cell's just a space. It's a space that is uploaded into the game. So we have the space, and inside the space we have other little spaces that are loaded up with this. So there's literally, if I was to put a visual to it, inside this fabricator, there's another little container that's inside the fabricator that has its own information that's attached to this cell. So
basically, the way it works in a high-level overview is you have the cell, like the cell that you're loaded in, right, in the world space. So you're loaded in a cell. Whenever you're in the outpost building menu, you're able to place down cells. So remember, we're back to like loading a cell inside of a cell. That's what this is doing. So
building inside that cell.
Yeah. So what you're doing is you're placing a cell down inside of another cell. And the cell that you're placing down has a container and then the 2 dummy objects in the control console. So a cell is just a collection of objects.
Got it. So when you drop this down, all these things are dropped down with it.
Yes, exactly. What you're doing is you're using the cell as a collection of objects. And that's how, so that one pack-in is referencing this. So it's saying, whenever I build this pack-in, place down this cell inside of the cell that we're in. So it'll then place down that cell which has the container and the control console. So that's how you'll see the fabricator and the control console together. They're two separate objects, but they're in the same cell.
Right. And they are tied together in that cell.
And this is how they tie it together. So
through that reference.
Through that console, there is a reference to this container. And it basically says link this outpost builder to this right here. So this reference is basically pointing to this container, allowing this control console to control this container. So that's how it pulls the recipes and stuff that are available in this container. Basically, what this is doing, it's looking at the actor values that are associated with that container and the properties. And it basically populates that list of things you can build. So each builder that you place down is its own cell. You can change the production on it, but what that's doing is essentially changing it from one thing to another. That's what that control console is for. Like you're placing down one fabricator or isocentric magnet, but if you change the recipe, it changes the cell.
And that would create some issues, right?
No, it works perfectly fine. Like basically the way you do it in the game, it's like if you go to that control console and change the recipe, it'll change the objects, but it's seamless to the user. Like the user's not going to see this. What it's doing is it's changing that cell to another cell, and it's completely seamless to the user. Essentially, the reason it has to change that cell is because container, you can't just change what it's making. So it has to completely replace that container. So it loads in a new cell.
I see.
And it does this really quick. Like it's not even noticeable. Like I haven't even noticed it. So it'll essentially switch out those cells and then it's able to produce the new thing. So like let's say you go from isocentric magnet to adaptive frames. It's not just changing the recipe, it's changing the entire object, like the entire cell.
Where would you change that if we were to do that? If we were to take this isocentric and make something else under the same title.
You mean like
so instead of it popping out a magnet, it would pop out frame.
Like an adaptive frame?
Yeah.
That's handled in the engine, like where it actually does the change. The control console is basically the reference pointing to this where it pulls in the recipes. Where that change, like let's say you wanted to switch recipe. You have to go to the control console, and the control console basically pulls up the recipes. The game engine says, okay, I need to unload this cell, unload this cell, because you're changing the recipe inside the console. So basically, like you change one recipe to another recipe inside that container that's stored in that property list. The property list basically says, I can build these recipes. This is the one that's enabled right now. The rest are disabled. Control console picks that up and says, currently built next to the one that's enabled, and the others are, disabled. Whenever you select a different recipe, it doesn't just change that variable. It unloads the cell and loads the new cell in. Basically, a container switches out to, it's like it unloads that entire cell and loads in the new cell at the same place. This is handled in the engine, basically. This is the logic that's built into the game.
I see. And you do have access to that part of the engine right now, or is that something that would be in the CK? Or
this is so we can't change the logic because that's like in the engine itself, but we can use the logic to like make new items, basically. So we can do the same thing Bethesda did with CK, like without the CK, because that's basically just recreating the entire process. So it's like, but we can't change the logic of it. Like the actual logic would have to be like an engine change, which means like SFSE, or like actually having the code for the engine changing.
If you had this and it's reaching when you click on this outpost to make the magnet, it reaches into a reference that grabs that particular item to build whatever it needs to build. Can you change that reference number to something you've made? Where it would, instead of reaching into...
I would say, you don't want to do that in the same cell. Because like this reference points to this container. So like if you wanted to, you can change this container in the cell and make it build something else. I don't see why you would do that. Like if you wanted to...
it's a hypothetical,
Yeah, a hypothetical though, you would just change this container. Like you'd basically just change this to another container. Like let's say you put in another fabricator or something. If you wanted to, you just change this one thing to that.
And how would you do that? Basically. Right there?
Yep. So where it says this name base,
copy another one
Yep.
and just paste it there?
Yep. And it'll change it right here.
Can you do that without wrecking your thing? I just was curious to see how you would actually do that process.
Would have to like copy as an override. Yeah, I'll just make it right here. Just test. So like, here we go. So what I did right here is I actually just created an override of this record. An override is basically the same form ID, but you're allowed to change it. So you can't modify the base ESM stuff. Like if I tried to, I couldn't.
So this is like a mask. It will cover what's existing and pull from this instead if you have it loaded up. Okay.
Yes. So like you see how I can't right click and edit on this one. If I go here, right click, edit, I can change that right here. Or I can just double click and like, let's say I wanted to, like, neat thing about Xedit, auto-completes.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
Let's say instead of building an isocentered magnet, I wanted to make this thing build an adaptive frame. I would just select that, and let me expand these so you can read it. Adaptive frame, isocentered magnet. So now what this would be doing is instead of building an isocentered magnet, it would be building the adaptive frames instead.
Awesome. I mean, the fact of it doing that is whatever, but the power to be able to go, hey, let's just redirect this to pull something else. You can use it on other things such as weapons and ammunition, right?
Yeah.
You can say, hey, I don't like this gun taking the 7.77 ammo. I'm going to redirect it to pull whatever.
Actually, I'll show you how to do that real quick.
Awesome.
So let's see. Let's find a weapon.
What's one we use all the time? One of those really nice pistols that we never find enough ammo, like a 45.
Yeah.
I think the 18 or 1911. I don't know if it'll pop up as that.
It should come up. Yeah, there you go. XM2311. So this should be the 45. Yeah. This is the Space 45, the 2311.
Okay.
So basically weapons are objects within the games, right? You know, we all know that. They're made up of a lot of different stuff. So these keywords basically tell what the weapon has in terms of keywords, right? Like,
and that's also where perks pull from too, so they know what to adjust and change, right?
I don't know specifically. I think weapon type ballistic and weapon type pistol, like these keywords right here, basically will tell it if the perk is to increase pistol damage. You know, it looks for this keyword right here. If it looks for ballistic damage, it looks for this keyword right here. So, those are like what it would be. Here we go, and here's like the attachment point slots. These are used for mods and stuff like that. So you have a legendary rank 2, 3, your barrel and stuff like that. Legendary rank 1, receiver. These are all the points that can be changed. And then you have your mods. So basically, these are all the modifications that you can put on the weapon. So custom receiver, no mod, standard grip, standard magazine, custom slice,
true or
standard
false,
barrel.
whether it's on or off, basically.
Yep. And basically, these are all the different combinations and stuff. So like, combination. Basically, I haven't messed with this stuff just yet. I'm still learning it.
Oh, it's a perfect time right now.
Yeah. I haven't messed with any of this stuff at all. And it's like, but I have messed with other stuff on weapons, which we'll go into in a little bit. But let's say we wanted to change. Yeah, the ammo is down here. Passive modifications. So here's the aim model, and right under that is the ammunition. So right here, we have the ammo type, the capacity, which is the magazine capacity, and then the ammo list. And then projectile count, and whether NPCs use ammo. And then there's this, which I don't know what that is. That's unknown. But there's also the override projectile and override shell casing. This is if you wanted to override the projectile and pick a different projectile, like if you want to make a gun shoot missiles instead.
That's a bunch of Fallout 4 mods right there.
Basically, we would override this projectile and say, like, let's say you want to make this 11-inch missiles. You could point this to missile projectile. Shell casing is the same thing. It's overrides the shell casing. These just allow you to change those different things.
So that's the visual, what it's showing you, right?
Oh, it also changes like the actual like weapon. Like you change it to a missile, it's gonna shoot a missile that explodes and does explosions, damage from the explosion.
But it would still use the ammo that is
yes.
not changed.
Yes.
Okay.
And so this ammo list right here is the ammo the gun spawns with. So it'll pull through and basically say, use this level list right here, which is ammo 45 caliber. And it'll pull from that and it'll say load with this ammo right here. So go back here, 2311. Scroll back down. So that's the ammo that it loads with. Now to actually change the ammo itself is right here. This ammo type is basically the ammo that the gun requires. So you know how you can override the projectile, make it shoot missiles, but it will still require 45 ammo. If we wanted to make this require missiles, we would change this and point to a missile. So like you would just like double click, or you'd have to copy this override first, and then like double click this and select, missile or something.
And that's the same way you did before. You create an override, it turns that screen green.
Yeah, and the colors are basically like whether it matches, whether there's a difference. Like I'm not able to do it right here for some reason. I guess because there's a reflection data or something on this. Don't know.
Interesting. I wonder if it's just for that ammo type.
Yeah, see, I can copy the Wakizashi.
Well, let's try and
outlet.
There's the shoddy. Rattler.
Do the sides.
Okay.
Or not.
The sides
it's because it has those reflections on. Right now, for the current version of Xedit, anything that has reflection can't be modified. The reflection, they use like reflections for screens that control ammo, like that show ammo or something. That's what the reflection data is used for.
I see. And something they're still working on to be able to?
Yeah.
Got it.
Or target. Back grenade. I don't think I can do it with any of the regular weapons because they don't have like that screen that displays how much ammo it has or something. I can't do it with any of these weapons right now. I'll do it with a ship weapon to show you. So, because I know for a fact I can change these. So, same thing. Ammunition type is right here. So, take this cannon, copy as override, drop it in here, and it turns green, right? So let's say we wanted to change the ammo capacity of this cannon. Like with spaceships, they'll have those bars on the side and everything that go down when you shoot. This is basically what controls that. That's the magazine size. This is the amount that controls it. So if I wanted to say change this to 100, you see how the color changed?
Yeah.
It's basically saying there's a difference between these two. That's all it really.
And that's showing you the change that was made.
Yes.
Okay. There's the same thing in CK for if you have a network CK, it'll let you know if who's checked out what kind of thing. I see. So that's how you know, and that's how you would check what this mod modifies.
Yeah. Like if you're loading up a patch to see what it changes, you'll see like these different colors and stuff like that. Sometimes it'll be red or something like that. I don't remember what all the colors mean specifically. I just know red means something is going to go over red and it doesn't match up. So I try to make everything green.
Right.
Let me drop this back. And you see how it turns back to green. It's basically identical to the master. So
got it.
If I wanted to change the ammo to make this require a missile, so there's all this right here. So you see how it says ammo missile. Let me change that. There we go. So if I want to make this cannon require missiles to shoot it, there we go. Basically, you would do that. You can also like bring changes over by clicking on one record dragging it to the next. So let's say you're building a patch or something, right? And there's specific things you want to bring over. Like, let's say you want gold is 20, and let's say this is 100, different mod. If you wanted to overwrite that change in a patch, you would basically bring this over to your patch, click it, drop it. And this is the same way if there's like other properties or something like that, like extra things, like extra keywords. So like, let's say, I don't have a keyword off the top of my head, but like, let's say you had a keyword over here and in this file it didn't have it, you could drag it over. If this file had separate keywords and you're building a patch, you're trying to combine two different things, you'll see the keywords from one file, the keywords from another file. You're able to drag these over to your patch and then like, you know, make sure you have both keywords or both properties. Or
so if you made, I mean, you can't do it now, but if you made a new gun and you wanted it to be attached to that specific rifle or whatever, you can highlight the keyword and bring it over to your patch for the new gun. Awesome.
And it's literally just simple as dragging and dropping, like, or you can just click it, Control C, click this one, Control V. It didn't change anything, but like I could just do this, Control C, Control V, and then you see how it does like this. So where it's like it shows empty in this space and empty in this space. What we can do, drag this over, and then add it to that.
Got it. And you wouldn't bring it the other way because the other way is the main ESM.
Yeah.
You can't bring that over and drop it inside.
Yeah.
Got it. Oh, and also there's no ammo normally. So that's something.
Yeah. So for the ship weapons, that was a fun change to make. So
do you have what it looked like originally?
Yeah, it's right down here. So the ship weapons are interesting. So under this power section, there is this null reference, the recharge time, the recharge delay, consume ammo, power bonus, don't know, use power if it's powered. Then there's these unknowns, and then power consumption. So recharge time is how long it takes to recharge. The delay is the delay between when you stop shooting to when it recharges. Consume ammo is that whether or not. So like, let's say we wanted to make this gun, this KE-20A, use ammo to shoot. You would basically copy this record over as override, and then you would find this right here, consume ammo, double click, change that to true, or you can just basically type it in. So true. And basically now this gun would use ammo.
Sorry, does it have a reference to what ammo it was going to use before it said false?
Regardless of whether it requires ammo or not, it needs an ammo type, because the ammo type points to the projectile. So the ammo type's right up here. So SWA, ammo ballistic generic cannon. Open that. Here we go. Here's the ammo record. So this is the model that's shown in the game. I should note that this NIF does not actually exist. I figured that out the hard way because ammo that I basically made for my mod wasn't showing in inventories at all. And I was like, why is it not working? Turns out that NIF doesn't exist. If the NIF doesn't exist, it doesn't know what to show. It doesn't add it to the inventory.
Right, so there's no 3D model for this thing?
For this right here.
Got it.
Like this path right here does not exist. And like you can open up the BSAs, the archives, and like go to the meshes and like extract them and see all the meshes that exist.
And is there mesh for these that exist, or are they just non-existent?
Yeah, this NIF doesn't exist.
And there's no meshes or anything for it?
For this one right here, like for the specific path. We could point to a different path, so and then it will work, which is what I had to do for my mod. Then there's this keyword, object type ammo. This keyword basically says, you know, this is ammo. It's self-explanatory. That's what this uses right here. This data, this value is how much this ammo costs per round. This weight is how much each round weighs. If we take a look at this missile right here, we see that each missile is valued at 105 credits and it has a weight of 3 kilos. And in terms of like Starfield, this number right here, the whole numbers are kilos. Anything under that's grams.
And what does it show in your inventory if there is no model for it?
If there's no model for it, it doesn't show up in the inventory at all. It'll be like not. It looks like it's not even there. It technically is. It's in your inventory. You just can't see it because the game doesn't know how to render it, so it doesn't show up in the inventory list at all. With no proper NIF.
Mm-hmm. And so your mod you buy it, it goes into your ship, and it just will run out of ammo. Do you have any way of seeing how much is in there?
So once you have the NIF on there, you'll actually be able to see it in inventory lists.
Mm-hmm.
So then it'll show up like with a specific amount. Like, I don't have a picture right now, but like if you use my mod, like you'll see them in the inventory list, and it'll say the specific amount of ammo that each one has in the cargo hold.
Got it. So you just had to find a model to point it to, basically.
And I looked at forget what it was. It's like a missile crate or something like that. And I just pointed it to that, and it's like it looks like a box of munition. So I was like, I might as well just use it.
Yeah. And if you drop it, does it just show up as a box?
So the missile tube is huge. Like if you drop the missile tube on the ground or spawn it on the ground, it is freaking huge. Like I'm not even joking. It's about as big as you. I was like, holy crap, that is huge. In the inventory, it looks small.
Right.
In the game world, like if you drop it on the ground, it is huge.
But you can.
Same thing with missile crates. Yeah, you can. Like it'll show up in the game, but this one doesn't exist. It won't show up at all in the game world because there's nothing for it to render.
How did you point it to another model?
So you basically just expand this, double click this, or let me copy this as an override real quick. There we go. So this right here is the model file name. So this is relative to the archive. So set dressing is the folder, ammo crates is another folder, and then type A extra large.nif is the file. So let me see if I can pull this up real quick. I will. OBS is not playing nice right now. It just froze up. I can't show it right now. But essentially, you would point it to the path of the NIF. And so edit this to point it to any NIF you have from relative to the archive. So set dressing, ammo crates, yada, yada, yada. I'll pull up my mod in a little bit and I'll show you what I change it to. And that's all you do to change the NIF is you just change the path to another one that exists in the archive, and it'll switch the it'll switch the model to that along with the textures and everything like that, and load up that. And then
you want to just do it from opening the program all the way to making one of these weapons change, so we can show the entire process.
That'd
be a good way to have the ending of this course, weapon modification course. Super useful information, especially for me. You know, it's nice being able to play devil's advocate because this is not my wheelhouse. So I think a lot of people, this will help them.
So basically, let's say we're making a new mod from scratch. The two main files we need are starfield.esm and blueprint ships. Like these two should automatically be selected.
And will this show up once you open the program, once you download it from the website, which I'll have the link?
Yeah.
It'll read it wherever folder you put it? Okay.
Like if you're using Model Organizer 2, you have to actually add it to Model Organizer 2. And basically run it from Model Organizer 2 to load up all the ESMs that you have. But that's just because Model Organizer 2 like has its virtual file system and everything like that, and it's complex. If you're using Vortex or manually installing mods and stuff like that, and you manually install Xedit, and you don't run it from Model Organizer 2, it'll pull up anything in the actual install folder. So let's get into actually making weapons use ammo for ships. So first thing we're going to do is go down to the weapons, sort the editor ID, scroll down. So all these right here. So this is ship weapon A, ship weapon B is down here, and then ship weapon C and L. So the A, B, and C are basically to the class of ships. So I'm going to take see. Where is it? KE20A. Copy. So you can actually shift click or control click and go down. So I'm taking all of these right here just for showing like how to do this. And then what you're going to do is copy those as an override to a new ESM. We're going to name that ESM. There we go. So now we have these. What we can do is minimize that and then go into here. So the way I did this was I took these weapons and we could see this as two columns, right?
Mm-hmm.
What you can actually do is click multiple of these at the same time. As long as they have the same records, which these do, you can scroll down and basically go here to the power. If I wanted to change multiple of these at once, you see where it says consume ammo false.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to change one of these to true. And then what we're going to do is copy that. And then just paste it over these.
Just Control V down the line, huh?
Yep. Or you can just drag it like this works too. Control V and Control C, Control V just works quicker for me because I use keyboards a lot.
Yeah.
And there we go. All these are set to use ammo now.
And they're going to go to that ballistic ammo that doesn't have a NIF.
Correct. Right? So what we're going to do is we're going to just click one of these because they all use the same ammo type. Or they should. Actually, no, they don't. I forgot about that. I made them use the same ammo type. Yeah, so I'm going to click one of these and just say, I'm going to take this ammo right here, control click, open that up. So now we have this right here. So it says ship weapon ammo, ballistic, generic cannon, EM, particle, and then Horizon, which is another manufacturer, generic cannon, blazer, particle, etc., etc. Mm-hmm. We're going to take this one right here, right click this, copy it as a new record. So what this does is it makes an entirely new record in the game.
Oh, so you're making a new ammo type, basically. Yes.
And then what I'm going to do is just remove ballistic, so there's no manufacturer, generic, cannon. So it's SWA. I'm going to replace SWA with just SW. So it has a unique editor ID.
Mm-hmm.
So SW, generic ammo, generic cannon. Copy that. Place it in here. And now if we go in here, we have this ammunition tab now. And if you look in here, it's the exact same thing as a generic cannon, and it uses the same projectile. We don't need to copy over the projectile. We can just let it point to the same thing. Because with cannons and stuff like that, the ammo isn't tied to the explosive or the missile. You know, it's not tied to projectile and explosives. It's tied to the weapon itself.
So just you're changing words referencing and pulling from. Instead of pulling from this SWA, you're going to pull from your SW.
Yeah. So now what we can do is just copy that, go in here, and we can do the same thing. Just click on all of these and scroll down to the ammo. Where is it? Did I pass it? Ammunition. There we go. So, that's another thing. If it doesn't have the ending on it, you'll run into that issue. So now that we actually auto-completed and typed it in, we can just copy this to all of these.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing. If you click and control and click, it'll do that. So
maybe Control V is probably the way to go.
Yeah.
Less
you have to be careful with holding control. That's what I was doing. I accidentally held control and clicked. Because I do it a little bit quicker. Where was I? There we go. Basically, I didn't let go of control quick enough. And it just basically was like, oh, yep, I'm going to take you here. There we go. You get used to this.
Right.
It happens a lot. There we go. So now all of them should be using the new ammo type. And here's another thing. If you're making ammo that you want in the inventory, you have to give it a name. So you see where it says full name, how it's grayed out, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's because this record doesn't exist. So we have to right click add. And then what we do is right click edit. I'll just name it this. So 25 by 137 millimeter shell. That's what's going to show up in the inventory. And now as for the NIF, I'm going to pull up NIF. Let me get my console real quick so I can find files. I'm doing this off screen, but I'll CD extract. Basically, you can just look through it like, here, I'm just going to copy this right here.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what this is going to be, I'm dragging this off screen so I can write down. So it's going to be set dressing ammo box 01.nif. And basically save that. So now this is the model it's going to pull for the game.
And how would you find that normally? Would you have to unpack the BAs?
Yeah, so you have to unpack the BA2 with BAE, and then you're going to have to, specifically the 2 mesh ones. I forget how many meshes there are, but you basically unpack both of those, and then you can just look through the meshes and find one that sounds right, or, you know, once NIF scope is properly updated and everything to work with Starfield, you can use that to look at them. There's also the Blender plugins and stuff like that. Don't know if they work. I don't really do 3D modeling with Bethesda games that much.
So if you're following along, just copy this one, set dressing ammo box. It should give you something to work with for it.
I don't know what it's going to look like, but it'll work.
That's part of the mystery.
Yeah. So now these transformers right here are basically how you can move it in the game. It's like if I wanted to copy that, I could. So let's say I go into ammunition, 11 millimeter, and you see how this says PTT2 transforms.
Mm-hmm.
I can just right click and copy, or basically click and Control C, and then go back here, right click, add inventory transform. There we go. So this will allow you to move it around in the inventory and like look at it and stuff like that if you wanted to inspect it. So
this is what it looked like in your inventory. It looked like that ammo box.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Another thing we need to do is copy over some keywords. So ammunition, click this. So we see these 2 right here. We're going to need these 2 keywords. So what is that? Then keyword, right click, add, paste that. And paste that over here. So there we go. The keywords are up to date, and now this right here. Remove the non-playable flag.
And so what did you do with the keyword? Why did you need to add the object type ammo to it?
So the object type ammo was already there. We needed the ammo box small and type MISC. I'm just doing that just for purposes of making it look like the other ammo types, just in case.
Mm-hmm.
You see how there's no flags, and then it has these 2.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, I haven't really done much research into this. I'm assuming these are tied to like displaying the ammo in the inventory. And the non-playable, I don't really remember what that's for, but basically any ammo that you use doesn't have those flags and has these 2 keywords.
Got it. So you're just copying what is existing to be as safe as possible with it.
Like these creature ammo types. So ammo for creatures, they have these non-playable flags, and then they don't have those keywords.
Mhm.
But ammo that we can have in our inventory has these keywords and doesn't have the non-playable flag. Basically, you're trying to make it match up as close as possible.
Got it.
And we don't need to set a casing type for or casing model for ship weapons because there are no casings. So now, what we should have is a ammo that works, and the ship weapons use that ammo. Now, this will show up in your inventory. So if you were to add item and then use this form ID, it would pop up in your inventory. Specifically, like the form ID that's loaded in the game. These first two numbers are going to change depending on the load order. The rest will stay the same. So once you add these into your inventory, they'll show up. They'll use this model right here, have this name, and you'll be able to see it and move it around due to these transforms and these keywords and stuff like that. So then we have the ammo, we have the weapon. What else do we need? So for the ship weapons, there are no animations that we need to worry about, thankfully. Turrets have their own animations, but I'm not messing with those. Another thing is leveled lists. So if we really wanted to like add this into the loot, I'm not going to do this completely because it just takes so much time. I'll just give a quick rundown of this because it's a little bit easy to explain, but it's a pain to implement.
Okay.
So here we go. So LLC stands for leveled loot, our leveled list container. So this container is for loot ammo. It loads these two leveled lists. But what we're going to look for is scroll down. Let's say we wanted to add it to a specific vendor. So let's say Trade Authority. We'd go here. And now if we look through their items, you can see the different things that they load. So weapons general backpacks, organic resources, inorganic resources, aid, yada, yada, yada. So you see how there's all these different things. Let's see if we can find one with ammo. Here we go. Weapons dealer small. Or that's credits. Basic range. Leveled lists are a bit of a pain because you have to like figure out which one has which. And it's like, yeah. Basically, I don't remember which leveled list I did. Let me pull up my notes real quick.
No worries.
Notes are essential. Here we go.
Notes and naming. Be clean with when you start making a mod. Name it with your initials, maybe.
Yeah, adding a prefix or a suffix really helps, like differentiating mods, and especially for looking for items in your game, because you could search for your prefix and stuff like that, or at least you were able to before.
Right. For sim settlements, we have SS2. We have SS2 extended. That's for extended combat or stuff that can't be on the Xbox. There's SS2 C2 Chapter 2. So if you have those prefixes, it makes it really clean. Try to be organized. It really will save you so much time.
Whenever I make stuff, like I really should follow best practices and like add prefixes, but it's like sometimes I just try to make it look like the others just for me. Typically, like if I'm making a leveled list ammo, it's gonna be like named somewhat like similar. Like it's gonna be like yellow vendor ammo, yada yada yada, like ship weapons. So we see how this ammo basic, advanced, and limited all reference other leveled lists. So let's take a look at one of these. So if we open up this, we see it has shot shell CLL, shot shell, particle fuse light, particle fuse heavy, MIRA, and it just goes down the list, right? So what we can do is right click, copy as override into here. And we're just copying that as override. And then what we're going to do is take, let's just say 11 millimeter right here. We're going to right click, copy as new record. I'm just doing this for sake of
Mm-hmm.
like demonstration. You know, name it something better, something that you actually know what's going on with, and then put that in your new ESM. Now the fun part. So modifying level list is tedious.
Well, just do one port. The basic
Yeah.
idea. I won't make you sit here and do the whole fucking thing.
And then what we can do is take this ammo, and this is the item that shows up in the level list.
Mm-hmm.
So we can do SW ammo generic cannon. And honestly, what we can do is just copy and paste it like to all these right here. Like I'm not adding extras because that's just way too much of a pain. But so now we have all this right here, right? So the way level lists work is there's multiple entries in these lists, right? And there's, let's say, this has a level,
Mm-hmm.
the reference, which is the item, and then the count. So the level is the level it starts showing up at. The reference is the item that shows up, and the count is the amount. So there's multiple of these entries. So you see how they're all level 1, right?
Correct.
That's all the level that you should show up at. They'll start from level 1 and just show up constantly. This count, each one is a different amount. So if we look up here, it says calculate from all levels under or equal to the player's level and calculate for each item in the count. So what's going to happen is it's going to count or calculate for each one of these to show whether it should pop up or not. And then basically, so what we do is here, go here to the ammo basic. This is the vendor ammo list. So this is all the ammo that'll show up in a vendor. So your shot shells, particle fuses, MI arrays, and this is like something like Centaurian arms or Jemison Mercantile. Centaurian arms is the advanced one. This is basic one is used in Jemison Mercantile, if I remember correctly. Basically, what we do is we take, like, let's say this one right here. We can just click it, drag it to the top, and do that, and it just creates another entry. And what we're going to do is LL ammo ship cannon ammo. There we go. So now this will show up in level lists in vendors. It's that simple.
So you added that, and that will show up at that specific vendor.
So the reason I edited this vendor ammo basic one is it's used by multiple vendors.
Got it.
So if we look at the references here, you'll see how it's in this level list, which is ranged basic, basic no Laredo, trade ship FC container, trade ship UC container. So these are ship containers. So trader ships.
Mm-hmm.
So for Freestar Collective and UC, then this is the ranged weapons basic and ranged weapon basic with no Laredo. So it's used in these four. And then if let's say we take a look at the first one, the weapon ranged basic, you'll see that it uses multiple entries. So weapon for rifle, handgun, melee, shotgun, handgun, melee, rifle, shotgun. Ammo basic, then ranged and silenced, and then upgraded. So these are all the different weapon types that'll load up in the inventory of the trader. And then it's going to load up the ammo list for the trader. So basically any traders that use this level list, which are Salinas' Hardware, Carlos Shenton, this one and this one.
Mm-hmm.
So these four vendors use this level list, which uses this ammo list. And this ammo list contains our ammo.
And
so
that's
these
where you can find it.
Yeah. So these four vendors are where we're going to be able to find our ammo.
Oh, that's really cool.
And I mean, honestly, like, let's say we go back here and open this one. This advanced one. And then we go here, look at advanced, and then look who uses this one. So Centaurian Arms, or Centaurian Arsenal, uses the advanced list. If you go to this advanced list, we'll see that it has this ammo advanced. So if we open that ammo advanced, we can also add our ammo into here. And it'll show up at the vendors that we showed there. So it's inventory and arsenal and the other one. Same thing with the ammo limited. And basically, these are all the vendor lists that use that. And then you'll basically put it in here. All of these vendors will have it now.
And you can also add this to a container, right? Like some random location.
Yeah, so you can manually add it to a container if you really wanted to. Like, let's say you have the CK and you drop a container down, you can drop ammo in it. Level lists are a way of like randomizing the loot. So that's how like all the vendors have, you know, like random numbers of different ammo types or weapons. Like they might have 6 guns of one thing, you know, 6 of one gun, 2 of another gun, 50 of one ammo, 1,000 of another ammo. It's a list that's used to calculate the amount that's in there based on the character's level. So essentially level lists. It just makes adding a group of items to containers easier.
Mm-hmm.
So if we actually look at
it's almost like a keyword for certain items, so you don't have to
Yeah.
go and do this for every single mercantile.
Yeah, and it makes it like easy to replicate too. So you can build level lists for certain things and like drop them in containers instead of dropping in the items manually. And it'll randomly pull from that list on, you know, the cell spawn. It'll pull from that list and then drop those items in the container without you having to manually like add all of the items to the container itself. So it just makes things a bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
It also helps with like loot and stuff like that. So like, if I go to like, let's say we wanted to add it to, so whenever we kill a spaceship, right?
Right, a pirate.
We want them to drop ammo. Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll scroll up. Yeah, there are a ton in here. Should be right up here. Yep, there we go. Death item. So these are the level lists for ships. So cargo A, B, C, combat A, B, C, starborn, tanker, transport.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say we wanted to add it to the combat lists. We take these 3, copy as override, and then go in there. And then this is the simple way of doing it. You know, you'll end up with conflicts this way because if other mods modify these level lists, then you're going to have conflicts. You know, one mod's going to be overriding the other, and then you have to make patches and stuff like that. What you really should do is level list injection. I'm not going to go into that right now because I'm still learning it. Like that's later down the line once I learn a little bit more. I don't even know if we're capable of scripted injection in Starfield right now. We still have to learn a little bit about Papyrus, but for now, manually editing level lists. So we'll take this death item right here, so A, B, and C, and we could just basically do this same thing we did, create a new leveled list, and then name it. And then what's going to happen is it's going to pull this leveled list and pull this ammo and drop it in there. The way I did it in my mod was I made a leveled list that contains old ship ammo.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, different ammo types for railguns, cannons, and then every single missile type. I put all that into one leveled list. And then I referenced that leveled list for vendors and ship combat.
Mm-hmm.
So the death items for ships and then the vendor ammo. And then also I created leveled lists for each weapon, which was used for NPCs using ammo. That's a bit more complex because you basically have to make a level list for each weapon and then assign that level list to the weapon like we talked about earlier, so that the weapon spawns with the ammo. And then it'll basically use that weapon leveled list, figure out the ammo it needs, and then basically spawn in that specific amount of ammo, like a randomized amount of ammo for that weapon. And that's how you get NPCs to use ammo, or to have ammo for that specific weapon. And then you basically have to enable, you know, NPCs consume ammo. Like if you want to make them shoot their own weapons and use ammo, like where is it? Right here. NPCs use ammo. So if you wanted NPCs to actually require ammo to shoot, you'd basically just change that from a false to a true.
And would you have to change them having ammo?
Yeah, so that's what the leveled list for the weapons are for. So like if you look right, where is it? I am blind as a bat. Oh, here we go. Ammo list. So you'd basically make a level list for each weapon. So each one of these weapons will have their own level list. Now, for cannons, you could honestly make it a bit easier because they all use the same ammo type. So since all of these use the same exact ammo type, you can make one level list that has that specific ammo type, and then just use that one level list over all these.
So the ship will have a starting number of ammunition.
Yes. Yeah. So like I could just basically right click, then just create a new record. W. So basically, now what we do is we take this right here, and then go back to our ammunition. See this ammo list right here. We LOW, and you see how it says ammo A99, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's pulling up different weapon level lists. So now we would go ammo, ship, and then ammo. Sometimes it won't populate, but then you just do LVL. Sometimes you have to manually type it in, which is a pain. So 020000802. There we go. So now we can just click this copy and then do the fun thing of clicking all of these. And then go to the ammunition. And then just paste it in.
To each one of their individual ammo list for that weapon.
Yep. And as long as they use the same ammo type, this is perfectly fine. Like, basically just make it easier on yourself and like repeat stuff. So like now, let's say you wanted to make NPCs use ammo. Copy this true to all of these. And there we go. So any NPC ship that spawns with this cannon or these cannons will require ammo. And then they will spawn with a specific ammo from this level list. And then when they shoot, they'll use the ammo. So once they run out, and they can't use their weapon anymore.
Oh, cool.
And then, you can do stuff like modifying generic base forms if you want to change the power required or the stats for these weapons. Like, what I did was I made these ballistic weapons use lower power than energy weapons, basically to buff them a little bit.
You can also make missiles hit harder and, be harder to get ammo.
So to change the weapon damage, you can go down here. So you see how this is 12 with a range of 300 of minimum and the maximum of 800. And then add a range damage multiplier, crit damage multiplier. So all this right here is where you change the weapon damage. Missile launchers are a bit different. The missile launcher themselves usually have like 3 to 5 damage because the projectile and explosion are doing the actual damage instead of the cannon or the missile launcher. You can increase the damage on the missile launcher though. And it should take, and it should do more damage. Because right now we can't modify projectiles or explosions because reflection data.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, that's a great place for it. So let's say we made this mod now. How would we go about putting it in our mod list? Is it like a normal mod, ESP or ESM? How do we add that?
So, first things first is you save it. So you'll have to save it as, the name that you had it. Just press save. And let me see if I can get OBS showing up real quick. So you'll close out of mod organizer. And here we go. So mod organizer 2. So if you have Model Organizer 2 and you have SF1 edit set up to output to a mod.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is going to show up. Yeah, it's not showing up. You can have this output to a mod instead of your overwrite. If you have it outputting to a mod, then you can go in here, open Explorer, and then you'll basically, you could take, copy this. It's not going to show up unless I do. There we go. So it saves it in here for me. So I can just take this right here, copy this, or cut this. Right click, create empty mod. And put that in there. This is just basically a way of compartmentalizing ESMs and stuff like that for Model Organizer 2.
Mm-hmm.
If you're manually making mods and you want to use it, so then you just enable this. It would show up in your plugins down at the bottom. Enable that, and there you go. It's in your list. For Vortex and manual installations, you basically just make sure that the ESM is saved to the data folder.
You can also drag it into Vortex, I believe, in their file.
Yeah, like if you have a like if you set up the file structure and everything, you just drag it in, it should work. But also, Model Organizer 2 typically will modify files in the data folder. Mm-hmm. I'm using Model Organizer 2, so like it actually it's a virtual file system, so it's like not the same as Vortex. So it's going to be modifying files within its structure. So like if I go to open an Explorer, mods, all of these mods are basically stored in a virtual file system. So it's a bit different than like using Vortex and stuff like that. So making mods with SF1 edit in Model Organizer 2 is going to be different than making mods and like using Vortex and manual installation methods.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, once you get it in your list, you should be good to go, and then you could just start up the game and use it.
Do you have your weapon mod loaded up? I'd be curious to check it out.
Yeah, actually, it's loaded up right here. So I've been working on some patches, as you can see.
Mm-hmm.
Went a little bit ham. Let me see if I don't know how this is going to go on recording. It might go really crappy.
Oh, don't worry. If it does, this part never happened. The power of editing.
Okay, now that's over. So as you can see, it says ballistic 109, missile 68, and then laser 100. So we didn't modify laser weapons.
Mm-hmm.
So if we shoot them, it just basically counts down and then gets back up.
Mm-hmm.
The ballistic weapons, however, if we shoot,
it goes down.
It just keeps going down until you're empty. Same thing with the missiles. And with how the bar goes down, you'll see it start to recharge in a second. You can actually modify that to the recharge time, the recharge delay that we talked about. So basically, like in a few seconds, you should see like, yep, there we go. One bar pops up, and then the others should start coming up after that. And then what we can do is like hop out of here. And if we look in our inventory under the ammo, you'll see we have the railgun slugs, the 270 missiles, 270B missiles, 280C missiles, and then 13K missiles. You can have, all the different ammo types in here, but it's only going to use the ammo types for the weapons that are equipped.
Mm-hmm.
So
you made it for different rocket launchers will actually take different ammunition.
Yeah. Just because, like, the way Bethesda did things, missile launchers already had all their different ammo types.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and the thing is, they already had their own values and their own weights. So Bethesda did plan on this. They just didn't implement it fully. So,
well, let's blow up one of these ships and see what's inside them.
There we go.
Oh, yeah. Ballistic weapon systems.
So now if we actually look at photo mode is great for console access because what we can do is go over to this ship, click that. So if we look, remember how I said you can add ammo to weapons with the list? So whenever it spawns in with 250 of these railgun slugs for this Marauder. So it spawns in with each one of these weapons has its own level list. So each time it has a weapon equipped, it's going to spawn that ammo for it. So you basically get more ammo for each weapon.
Got it. Since all he has really is the railgun, it just breeds a whole bunch of railgun ammo.
Basically. So now if we...
Oh, yeah. Tough guys.
What? Scanning me when I'm just massacring people?
Oh, you're good. No problems here.
And actually now if we do show inventory again, I guess they haven't been shooting it. They've probably been shooting their lasers.
Mm-hmm. What has it got there?
There we go.
Yeah, 240. So he fired it twice.
Yeah, it looks like he actually dropped it. So it is working to actually drop the weapons specifically that I equipped. So, and if we pick them up, we could see we're at 250 now. So basically, I've been working on trying to figure out how to like get them to actually have the ammo they're using in their inventory. So that actually helps that a lot. Because I thought it wasn't properly showing up. Yeah.
Yeah, because if every guy you shoot gives you 250, then ammo becomes kind of negligible somewhat. So you maybe cut it down or up.
It's all random, and if they shoot, they use the ammo. So it's like, if it's a long, drawn-out battle, they're going to use all the ammo before you get a chance to get it.
Right, so. And you will use yours as well, so.
Yeah.
Kind of makes tactics, too, of avoiding them more. So if you really want their ammo,
yeah,
maybe take better shots. You try to avoid them wasting their ammo on you.
Yeah, see, how this one had 91 left.
23,000. God damn.
Yeah, it was a galvanic ship.
Oh, galvanic, got it.
But you see, it also had different types of ammo too. So what I might do is I might see if we're moving, because I'm still working on this mod. This is one of the patched versions I have locally that I haven't put out yet. I've been working on trying to get them to drop ammo on death, and specifically what they have equipped. And now that I know, I have to go forward to actually pick this up. Yep, there we go. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to remove the death level list and basically keep it like that. But yeah, that's it. I mean, awesome. Those changes are basically in effect, and all these NPCs are using ammo. They're spawning with ammo. We're using ammo.
Well, so if you guys out there want to play, it's already made for you, and I'll leave the link down below. But also, if you want specific things added yourself, or there's something you saw that you want to change, well, hopefully you can get into Xedit and start messing around with it. It's not impossible.
It's intimidating, but once you get used to it, it's a bit easier.
Well, I appreciate you going through that whole thing. It's definitely, I think it's going to be a great video, and I think a lot of people need information right now, because I see 10 different mods I love right now by videos everywhere, but I see no one diving into Xedit right now. A lot of the people I know who make CK tutorials and whatnot are waiting for the CK, but I don't think that's necessary. As you can see, we can do a lot with just Xedit. So get in there and start playing. And thank you again. I appreciate Dezzy coming on and spending 2 hours here talking about this.
Hopefully, I don't take up too much of your time. I know I could talk a lot.
No, no, not at all. And as I said, it's nice for me to follow because I'm learning this too as we go. I do dialogue in CK, so all this there's so many different things to modding. So all this to me is pretty foreign. So it's nice to see this aspect of it and gives me ideas for when the CK drops and I start making my own mod, how I can attach some of these properties to it.
Yeah.
So awesome.
CK definitely gives you a lot more control too. So
Right, and, but it's as I said, we can get a lot done and kind of
hmm
get our mods going with, Xedit, and it'll make the wait more bearable for whenever the CK2
yeah,
drops.
you can do a lot with Xedit. I mean, there's still like there's a lot of limitations, but there's still a lot you can do.